Hello, everyone, and welcome to Snap Take. This is Glazer of Snap Judgments, the official podcast of Marvel Snap Zone. Today, it's the last day of the season, and a new season is coming, so you want to hit Infinite. This is the best tips in Marvel Snap to get Infinite, guaranteed. If you can follow these tips, you can win games of Marvel Snap and hit Infinite. Before we get there, though, we are giving away 15 season passes. If you would like to enter, this is your last chance. Subscribe and comment on this video. If you do that on any video from last Wednesday to today, you're entered to win a season pass, one winner per video. In addition, check the Twitter at SnapJudgeCast, and if you do the stuff on there in the pin tweet, you get another chance, and we're giving away 5 more season passes next week. We also have this major tournament we're doing. It's called the Snap Judgments League, where we have 52 of your favorite creators. People like Lambie have been announced. People like Tucker have been announced. We also have a massive amount of just regular people who want to compete. You'll be put into pods where you'll play 1 game a week, so it's not a large tie on your time. With that 1 game a week, we'll have a winner who will get a free season pass and then be put into a single elimination bracket. There'll be all sorts of great content from this that you'd love to be a part of. How many games do you get to play your favorite creators? Not many. This is your chance. Check the Patreon for more. It's $1. We're charging $1 just to pay for the overhead. Every bit of money for this is going back into the tournament. So please feel free to join. We're announcing 3 creators today. We've got Ika, a brilliant deck builder who's often featured on the channel and will be later this video. We've got W, the creator of Doomwave, the creator of the Guardians Eliath deck. Again, a brilliant player. And Tournament Stomper Extraordinaire Browde. All 3 of these will be in the tournament, so join and you get to play some of the biggest and best names in Marvel Snap. Hopefully that's enough to get you to hit that sub button, but we also bring you multiple decks every single weekday. We have more content than anyone. We bring you decks faster than everyone, and we cover every bit of news, custom cards, everything you need for your Marvel Snap journey. Hit that sub button. Help us fight the YouTube algorithm, which only wants to show you the big players over and over again. Hit that sub button, leave a like, leave a comment. We're just going to keep going from here. We don't have time. We got so much to get through today. But remember, after our top 10 tips today, we're going to do what we always do. We're not going to leave you without a deck today. We're also going to do a last chance review for Skaar and for the current Spotlight hashes, Beta Ray Bill, Elsa Bloodstone, and Galactus. So don't miss out on that. Okay, 2 things to highlight from our reminders. First, again, this is the last chance for the giveaway, but also if you don't win this giveaway, we're announcing on Wednesday, by the way, because I need to record Tuesday's video a little early, so we're going to announce our winners on Wednesday's video. Now, if you'd like to win, in the description to this video, to every video we release, there is a giveaway sheet maintained by one of our friends, Banshee. We get nothing from it. It's just every active giveaway in Marvel Snap. So if you want to try to win a free season pass, check that sheet out. You will be so happy for it. Cool. Pensit Canton wants to know why my content looks so cheap. This is based off a question I answered on our podcast, the Snap Judgments podcast, over on Marvel Snap Zone. So this content is built to be all about just kind of hanging out and having a good time together while learning something about improving in the game. The reason we don't do gameplay is I don't feel gameplay is a good way to improve in the game. I feel taking a lesson or a skill and applying it is how you get better at something. There is certain coaching ways to improve games, but watching a video is not going to give you that coaching, so that's why we do that. The look of the content is first things first. I don't have time to be Cozy or Dexter or any of those people. I have a full-time job. I have a second full-time job. I'm a teacher and a union person, and I have a family. I do my best with the time I have to make the most content. You get a video literally 7 days a week, if you count the podcast from me. So there's not time to make it super pretty, but even if I could, that's not what I want to do here. If you want that level of polish, it exists. You can find that level of polish on multiple other channels. That's just not what we do here. I don't like 80s synth rock, right? I don't like highly produced, polished things. That's not the way I am. I'm a 90s kid. I like grunge. I like punk. I like things that are a little messy. I don't want every chord to be played perfectly. There's nothing wrong with that level of polish, but to me it feels like it lacks authenticity. It's not what I want for my content, and I make the kind of content that I would want, which is sort of like, hey, come hang out, spend some time with me. I think I'm offering you something of value. If it's not the prettiest thing in the world, you'll still enjoy it. Summit Jams, which asks which card I most wish had a hip variant. So Darkhawk has a data mined hip variant, so it can't be that. My other answer is Cyclops. I really want a hip Cyclops. It's particularly like an 80s Claremont era hip Cyclops. Cyclops is one of my favorite Marvel characters. If you've only ever seen the cartoons and the movies, you're going to be like, what the hell? But if you read any comic from the Morrison run on to present, you know exactly why. You should totally read those, by the way. But the Cyclops is the ultimate Dan hip that I want. And GunnyT, who's going to come up a lot this episode, asks how long I expect Marvel Snap to be a viable game. Considering they just got a $100 million investment, a long time. My guess is we're looking at least a 3 to 5 year lifespan, and if it succeeds, I can see it going longer. That's awesome for a mobile game and something I feel comfortable supporting. All right, so GunnyT is the person who came up with these tips. I've modified them, added to them, and edited them, but these are GunnyT's tips, ultimately. Gunny is a top 500 player in Marvel Snap, and his main claim is that learning to lose is the secret to winning the game of Marvel Snap. You want to hit infinite, you need to learn to lose and how to lose. Now, these tips are so good that in Lambie's Discord, they are pinned. So Lambie himself looked at these and went, these are perfect, these are exactly it, and pinned them on the Discord. And you can check out Gunny at youtube.com/snaptactics-6176. Please do check him out. He's awesome. He's just starting his YouTube journey, and we can show him some nice early love, right? Okay, pro tip number 10. Know your high roll and curve and snap on it. So first, you can have like your exact endgame, right? Like you've got Hela. Don't snap on Hela unless you have the earlier things that get Hela set up, unless you have a couple of discards. Sometimes you'll snap on Hela and you just won't see the right stuff earlier and you have a problem, right? Make sure you have a high roll and a curve, and that's when you snap. So if you're playing Darkhawk and you have Zabu, you on ladder you'll often want to snap, but not always. You have Zabu and Darkhawk, now we're looking good. You have Zabu and Iron Lad and Rock Slide. Now we're looking good, right? You want to make sure that you have a curve of things to do. In Destroy, you have Deadpool early with 2 Destroy cards. You're good to go. Go to town. Start playing it. Sometimes they're going to drop an Armor or Cosmo Ruin your day, right? You just retreat and call it a day. You've given up 1 extra cube at that point. But you've got enough to win the game. You are now extremely favored into the majority of matchups. That's why you're playing that deck in those things. Now, Spectrum is a really good example here, because Spectrum's not one of the most powerful decks in the game, right? Spectrum's good, but not great. Now, let's say you see Spectrum. What you want with Spectrum is you need to know, okay, do I have a curve leading into my Spectrum? If I'm running like a Wong Spectrum, do I have Wong? If I'm running a Professor X Spectrum, do I have an ability to get that lane down cold? What am I doing to make that Spectrum more effective? Do I have one of those pieces and Spectrum? If so, I can snap. Get it? One more important thing to note though, locations are part of your high roll. That ongoing deck you're looking at, if Onslaught Citadel pops up, guess what? Maybe that benefits your opponent as much as you, but you're still snapping, and if it benefits them too, you can retreat. Your high roll is one of your tools plus an important location. Understand? That's how we play Marvel Snap. That's how we win cubes. Step 1 is snap on these every time. Not most of the time, not some of the time. Snap on these. If you're playing the number 10 ranked player, who's currently Owie, or you're playing the number 500 ranked player or 10,000 ranked player, that's when you snap. Smart players should go. You also want to generally snap between turns 2 and 4. People are going to stay with less desirable hands if you snap that early, which is sort of what you're trying to incentivize them to do. You want them to either run and give you free cubes or stay in and give you more cubes, right? When you're favored. It's like raising in poker. People stay in when you snap earlier, so do so. You also need to, as you're snapping on turn 2, 3, 4, look at their turn 2, 3, 4 snaps with whatever cards they played and think about what they tell you. If we look back at that previous slide, right? If they play a Korg and then Sabu and snap, you know what they have. Is that a deck you can beat? Have you drawn enough to get past the disruption to your draw that's likely coming? If so, you can stay in, but if not, you probably want to go. Listen to their snaps. What information is their snap giving you? My favorite example of this comes from Browday, right? If they go, excuse me, Zabu into, if they go Korg and then they go Zabu into Iron Lad, right? they don't hit Rock Slide. You know that they're also not going to have Rock Slide on 4. You know that your draw for most of the rest of the game is going to be largely unencumbered. It's really useful information. Their deck is much weaker at that point, right? As soon as you have that information, you are good to go. Now, if they're snapping, they've given you information. If they're not snapping, they've given you information. You can also learn about their snap tendencies, although that's more of a conquest thing. Please do not stay in the hope that you can draw into it, despite the fact that others are doing so on 2, 3, and 4. If they snap on 2, 3, and 4, and you are missing your pieces, if you are not in a position to snap, you should go. You don't have to snap back. You can just let them snap and assume the risk and still run later. But if you don't have it, go. Next up, retreat when people snap on turn 5 if you're playing a known meta deck. If you are playing, for example, the current Revis Serra deck and someone snaps you on turn 5, please assume they have an answer for you. Good. They know exactly what's in your deck. They have a hard counter. If you don't have a complete nuts hand, and even sometimes if you do, you should definitely run away. Don't snap on turn 5 unless you're raising an opponent's previous snap. Generally speaking, taking 2 is better than taking 4. Is better than taking 1, and people should, they don't always, people should run when you snap on 5. If they stay, they're likely staying because they can counter you, and now you've raised into a loss. But you can, if they snap you on turn 5, raise them, because that means you know what they have. Obviously, if you're playing a bot, that doesn't count, right? Like, bot rules are totally different. But don't snap on turn 5 unless you're raising an opponent's previous snap. Run most of the time, 90% of the time, on an opponent's turn 5 snap. Especially if they know what you have. If you have some completely unheard of answer in that deck, if your top end is something totally unexpected and you know exactly what they have, then you can stay in. But generally speaking, just go. Pro tip 7. When you've snapped early, don't stick around, especially on a snapback. Now, you see that Zabu, you see that Darkhawk, and then they stick around and then they start hitting their Deadpool shenanigans, right? And you haven't drawn Shang yet, and they snap back. Just go away. Run. It's done. You might draw that Shang, you might not. You'll probably draw that Shang, but if you haven't yet, your odds are much lower than if you had just already had it in hand, and you should go. It's going to be extremely hard for you to win that match. All you're doing is donating extra cubes by staying. Losing 2 is incredibly less damaging than losing 4, and losing 4 is way less than 8. That doesn't mean you don't snap. That means that you don't let your snaps marry you to the game. Cool? If you snap, your snap is for pressing an advantage. When that advantage turns, if they snap, recognize that and say, no, I fold. Thank you. Next game. Do not stay in to make them have it. If it's the last turn of the game and if they have it, you lose. It feels great when it works, but there's a 75% chance that if they are probably running that card, or you know they're running that card, that they actually have it in hand. That's way too high a percentage chance. Please, at that point, run. Cool? Eliath and Shang-Chi beat you, and they're often in that particular deck, then it's time to go. If Eliath and Shang-Chi will beat you, not if they will 50-50 you. If they'll 50-50 you, everyone should stay in, and no matter what the stakes are, just stay in. You're going to lose some percentage of the time. Try and figure out why they played where they do. People generally commit to the less power to the place they're up more, just for the record, if that matters for you. But if Eliath and Shang-Chi beat you, for sure, don't assume they don't have it, just go. If Eliath and Shang-Chi beat you on a 50%, you can stick around. Number 5. Be in the habit of always retreating later. You can even retreat later after their snaps if it keeps you in the habit. That's just going to lose you time because they can't retreat after they've snapped. But be in the habit of always retreating later. If they don't have it, for example, in the previous tip, this can save you all your cubes, right? So you lose to Shangri-La, you lose to Shangri-La, and you just hit retreat later. They're fairly likely to retreat because they know they don't have it. Cool. If they know they don't have it, they retreat, you retreat, nothing is lost. You lost no cubes. Losing no cubes is better than that guaranteed loss from retreat right now, right? Always give yourself the opportunity to do that. People underuse retreat later and quickly retreat now. You're costing yourself cubes when you do so. Intermission. All right. These are 5 different places to learn beyond this list how to best play Snap. We have GunnyT's channels, Snap Tactics. We have Lambie's channel, and especially I'm going to link this playlist in the description. I'm going to link all this, but Next Level Snap is Lambie's guide to exactly how to play in Snap and Marvel Snap. It's extremely technical, very long episodes with Peaceful C, who you should also check out, about how to like level up your game in Marvel Snap. If you really, really, really want to be great, that's the Masters class. This is just getting you to infinite. Cool. Savage Yeti also explains how to play Marvel Snap using poker tactics. If you like poker at all, these are extraordinarily valuable. I'm going to link that in the description as well. Nina is Noob, phenomenal player, really good person, friend of ours. Has tips to get good. And Regis Kilbin has a I've hit infinite 10 times. Here's how list that is shockingly amazing. It's not shocking. Regis is one of my favorites. But it's really, really good. They're really simple, actionable tips, although it is a long video. And then also, I have a playlist. It's called Marvel Snap Pro Tips. They're tips from Lambie, Browday, Den, Safety, etc. And I have just a playlist. They're in the middle of other videos, but you can find them relatively quickly. So you should check that out too if you're interested in the best ways to learn how to be the best Marvel Snap player you can be. All right. Pro tip 4. Stop and revel in your 4 and 8 cube wins. Don't just go to your next game. 4 and 8 cube wins give you a free massive amount of 1 and 2 cube losses. It's fantastic. You deserve to feel good. You lose 4 1 cubers or like 1 2 cuber in there, then you win an 8 and you're up and you're happy. Good. Stop, enjoy, let yourself be proud of yourself. Breathe before you start your next game. Letting it settle a bit stops you from playing sloppy in your next game. When you get either too low or too high, you need to give yourself a break, take a breath before you go back. Otherwise, you can tilt up or tilt down. Neither one is beneficial to you. Stop, even yourself out, catch your breath, start the next game. Part of the brilliance of Snap is how simple it is to start a new game and how quick it is. You need to learn to stop after 4 and 8 cube wins, especially. Also stop after 4 and 8 cube losses, but I feel like giving that advice is silly because like everyone sort of knows they should, but people just don't, right? Like you should also stop between 4 and 8 cube losses, but there's something in our brain that doesn't really let us. Fine, I'll accept that. Try and stop after your big wins though. And you should be feeling good, so enjoy, revel in that feeling. All right, bluffs on ladder are incredibly rare. A snap from your opponent means their deck is doing the thing. Their deck has the counter to you doing the thing. Or a location makes them really strong. Ooh. Their deck is doing the thing we've talked about. Their deck has the counter. You start dropping ongoings. They have Rogue or Enchantress, they snap you. Or a location makes them really strong. Cool. It's not just to trick you 99% of the time. Use that information, please. They're not bluffing. Don't snap to bluff as a general rule, at least until you're far more advanced in your playing of the game. Assume, is their deck doing the thing? You'll know, look at the board. Is their deck going off? Is there a way for their deck to be about to going off? Did I just play something that they can counter? Did I drop a 10 power card and they're about to shong me in the face and they think I can't counter it? Okay. Or did a location just reveal that obviously benefits certain types of decks? Did a Death's Domain just appear for a Death deck, for example? Good. Next up, where passable, snap before your big play. And there's proactive and reactive big plays. The proactive big plays are cards like Wong, Shuri, Zabu, and Sarah. And the reactive big plays are cards like Rogue, Killmonger, Armor against a destroy player. Cool. There's obviously a million more proactive and reactive big plays. These are examples. Snap before you play any of these cards if you plan to. If you drop Wong, and then you snap, they either have a good answer for you or they run, right? Why give them that? If you snap and then drop Wong, you snap early, they have a chance to leave, and then if they would have run, now they're staying, right? You get that extra equity out of it. Number 1, test decks on Proving Grounds. Every deck isn't for everyone, and even if it feels busted, it might not be. You look at the deck, you go, oh, that's really good, that's going to fit my playstyle. Play it 10 times in Proving Grounds. You will be better for it. You will know if you should take into ladder. You will know its patterns better. I know it's annoying to do so, But if you're doing that on Proving Grounds, try and practice the tips that you're in control of. You don't have to run when they snap in Proving Grounds if they're just snapping willy-nilly. But generally speaking, practice these in Proving Grounds as you learn the deck. When on ladder, play decks you know well and stop trying to hit infinite. The big reason that so many players get stuck in the 90s is they get to 90 and all of a sudden they're not trying to win games, they're trying to hit infinite. Play the game in front of you correctly with a deck you know well. You'll lose some games, but you're not going to lose like 10 ranks. I see people losing 10 plus ranks all the time. That should never happen. Play decks you know well, smoothly, individual games, not series of games. You're not playing a best of 7 to get to infinite, right? You're playing one game. You're doing your best in one game. You're trying to win one game. If you lose one game, you lost one game. Now, the next game is not making up for that previous game. You are just trying to play that next game as well as you can. Focus on the game in front of you. That's how you hit infinite. All right, that's our list of 10. Now, let us get to should you buy him, Skaar. Yup. Wow, that was easy. We can move on now. We did a thing, I don't know, 3 Sundays ago now, where we broke down all the math, all the values for buying the season pass versus not buying the season pass. Buying the season pass leaves you around 2 to 3 cards away from having every card that releases in a year. Not buying a season pass leaves you with less than half. You should always buy the season pass, but even so, is Skaar powerful? That's the question we're here to answer, right? Yep. Skaar is borderline meta constantly, and I think he's always going to be. Much like you always kind of want to own She-Hulk, you will feel happier to own Skaar. There will be decks that come up, like Gunny's Big Dumb Idiots, which both Revis and Dexter promoted, right? There will be decks that show up that Skaar makes significantly better, that don't work without him, and it's easier to just have him. Wender, a wonderful top 50-ish player of Marvel Snap, did the math on how long it's taken since Spotlights came out for season pass cards to come up in Spotlights, and it's about 3 to 4 months. So if you don't want to wait 3 to 4 months for Skaar, if you don't want to spend 6,000 tokens, which is far, 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 far more valuable than $10 American, then you should get Skaar. Cool. I think Skaar is great. I think Skaar is like a solid A-B+ card that goes in a lot of decks. All right, our first deck for today is Ika Loves Sand. This is Ika's Sandman deck, and Ika did something so cool here that I just honestly didn't think of. He went like 9-1 with the deck, so that's part of why we're featuring it. But the other reason is Nico into Electro is brilliant, right? Whether Nico is blowing up Electro and drawing 2, or Nico is turning Electro into Demon, you get such a huge advantage from just those 2 spells on Electro. The rest of the deck is obvious. There's a million decks right now all over the place that are trying to, that are trying to do things like Sarah, or drop like 5 cards last turn to move a werewolf or a hitmonkey or whatever nonsense, right? Well, Ika Loves Sand beats the crap out of that, because Sandman says you can play 1 card, and my 1 card is probably better. That's enough, right? Like, that wins games of Marvel Snap. That's what this deck is about. So, oh, I don't think I did the play-by-play right. I didn't. This is the yesterday's play-by-play. I'll do the turn-by-turn in a minute. So, Nebula can be Iceman or Sunspot. Nico is the most important high series card here. Replace Iceman or Sunspot, but either way, it's a major loss. Jeff can be Nightcrawler. Iron Lad can be Jubilee. And don't be afraid to try Alioth if you have an extra spot. Twitch.tv/Ika_MTS is how you find Ika. Ready for the turn-by-turn? Let's do it this way. Turn 1 is basically always Nebula. I would never Nico on turn 1. Cool? We're Nebulaing on turn 1, preferably in a blind location, because she can often solo a blind location. If Nico is the right spell, I'll Nico on turn 2, otherwise it's Jeff. Electro is our priority on 3. Our play pattern after Electro is meant to be Sandman, and then Arrows slightly better than Devil Dino, and then you go double 6, ideally Doom Odin, but Leader Odin is also very good at that. Cool? If you cannot get Electro, you really, really want a Wave. This seems, again, fairly obvious, right? Wave lets you get a 6 out, and that is generally Doom or Leader. Doom's very good here, but I often like Leader better after a Wave, because if they're going to drop something big, I would rather just copy it. That's fine. Turn 5 at that point is often Sandman, although you can wave into Sandman if you have Devil Dino in hand for turn 5. Cool. Wave into Sandman is just fine with Devil Dino in hand. So wave, whatever. Turn 5 is generally speaking Devil Dino either way with this deck. You can drop Sandman if you dropped Leader and got something good, or you drop Doom and it felt right and you have Odin in hand. Arrow is again then fine. It's just your last choice then. And then your final play is again almost always Odin, although if you think they're going to drop something huge and you drop Doom earlier, right? Leader makes a lot of sense at that point. Like let's say they're playing a Destroyer and you think they're going to drop a Null. Leader is very good. Now, there are occasional times where after an Electro, you will want to play a Devil Dino because it's your biggest thing, or an Arrow on turn 5. At that point, it's worth remembering that you can play Jeff with those cards. Cool. Finally, you don't see Electro or Wave. You're just playing your early game, then you're praying like you almost have to at that point see Iron Lad on turn 4. Otherwise, run immediately. You're dead. If you see Iron Lad on turn 4 and hit Leader, Doom, Sandman, or Devil Dino, you still have a chance. All good? Good. All right. Beta Ray Bill. Should we buy Beta Ray Bill? This is the most complicated one. We do this every week, and this is the most complicated card to talk about what to do with. Ready? Beta Ray Bill is very strong. Beta Ray Bill creates an entire package because Beta Ray Bill, Jane Foster, and Thor, classic Thor, create a 3-card package that slot into lots of decks. They slot into Darkhawk decks, Annihilus decks, Lockjaw decks, Evolutionary decks, etc. That's really strong. Are any of those packages the best in the game? Maybe. Okay, here's the problem. Supergiant comes out tomorrow, right? And Beta Ray Bill really, really wants Jane Foster. And if you drop Beta Ray Bill and I drop Supergiant, then Jane Foster doesn't happen. And now you just played a kind of mediocre card. See the problem here, right? Now you have to top deck Stormbreaker, or you can have it in hand at the end of the game, but that doesn't really do anything. So Beta Ray Bill is really good, has a really good package, might even be top notch as of today, but I don't think if Supergiant is good, and no one knows if Supergiant is good, my assumption is Supergiant is going to be phenomenal. Because cards like Jane Foster and Sarah and Annihilus are so strong on turn 5, I think Jane Foster is going to be I think Supergiant is going to be very, very, very powerful. That said, Bill is good. He's a good card, and even if Supergiant is great, she won't be great forever, and you'll eventually want Bill. Bill is the borderline. If you're early in Series 3 and you already have the other 2 Thoris, I think Bill is an easy grab. If you have a bajillion resources, obviously grab Bill. He's good enough. But if you're not in those 2 categories, then I think Bill is probably still a skip. However, let's look at the other cards and see if they help us. Galactus is never going to be meta. He's as good as he's ever been right this minute. You know what else ruins Galactus's life entirely? Supergiant, right? Galactus is not a card that can deal with Supergiant's existence, and so it sort of just dies, falls apart completely. You can try like Supergiant into 6/8. That's just Hobgoblin into Galactus and see if that wins you the game. But if anything counters that at all, you're just dead, right? So maybe it gets better with Supergiant. I don't know. I guess it's worth testing, but I don't think they'll ever really let Galactus be meta again, to be completely honest. We also have Elsa. Elsa's supposed to get a buff. That's what's making this so difficult. If Elsa gets a buff, if Elsa becomes a 3/3 that gives +2 whenever you fill a lane, any lane, not just hers, I think she's probably worth it. Might be worth opening for entirely, because that's a powerful enough play pattern that it changes things. That's tough, right? I think Elsa might be important. I think this is still a skip because we don't know what's going to happen with Elsa, and there's too much uncertainty. But this is like the hardest should we open, should we not, that I think there's ever been. Because we don't know what Elsa's buff is, and we don't know what Supergiant's going to do to Bill. And Bill is sort of borderline anyway. But if Supergiant's bad, Bill stays really good, gets better, and now you have like a werewolf Beta Ray Bill package deck with the the 3/5 with Black Swan, that's probably a real thing, right? That seems like it would be really, really strong. Okay, so what if Elsa ends up meta in that deck? Now we really wish we had opened, right? There is that upside, and that makes this difficult. But not knowing if that upside ever comes to fruition, I'm going to vote for the time being, no. Alright, certain tiers of our support on Patreon come with on-air thanks. We got Models, Pretty Chill, Father Newman, Inc., No Flex, Mandatory Burnout, Matt Conduit 23, Good Dog Gamer, Kerdix Lee, Mikey Hijinks, DG Winfield, Cables, Rob Silverman, Matt H, Abigail Giesland, Direwolf, Ocularis, X-Force V, Jay Navarrete, Spike Jones, Koi Ray, Louis Antunes, J.D. McDonaldinho, and the homie Min. Thank you all so much for your support. Alright, so hopefully these tips are useful to you. If you use them, if you follow them closely, you will hit infinite. Just period, you will. This is the way to hit infinite. All good? Hit that sub button, hit that like, hit that comment. If you're willing, check out that Patreon. Appreciate your support. We'll be back tomorrow with a massive, massive look at not only Black Swan and Supergiant, but also every single card releasing this month. Peace.